You have a big dream or goal, but fear is stopping you from taking the first step. What if I told you that you've been looking at fear all wrong? Fear can actually help you achieve that big goal or dream that's in your heart. Today's conversation is about the gift of fear. Welcome to the Dream Lifestyle Podcast. I'm so grateful to have you here today. If you are new here, please be sure to hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell for two reasons. Number one, it will allow you to join this community of dreamers who simply want to make an impact every single week to achieve that goal and that dream that's in your heart. Number two, it'll simply be your way to stay up to date with all of our conversations throughout the month where we talk about mindset, goals, and just all things self-leadership. So if you would do that, I'd be thankful. And in today's conversation, we're talking about the gift of fear. The gift of fear. Now, this is a very counterintuitive way in which we're going to attack this topic of fear, because it is important that each and every one of us as dreamers, that we learn, I would even go as far as say that we master how to navigate fear. But we need to also understand that fear can be a gift. Okay. And you may be listening to me, you're like, Trev, that makes absolutely no sense. How can fear, the very thing that keeps me stuck, the very thing that keeps me up at night, the very thing that I know is holding me back from my future, how is that a gift? Well, I'm going to explain it to you, and I want to give you a fact about fear so that way you understand the way in which we're going to be attacking why fear is a gift. The first fact about fear that I need you to understand is that fear is only managed, never eliminated. Fear is only managed, never eliminated. Here's what I mean. When you think about fear, and you think about being fearless, and you think about doing things with no fear, let me tell you, it is a myth that fear does not exist when you think about going for big dreams. Fear is always going to have, there's always going to be a sprinkle of fear when you think about that new idea. There's always going to be a sprinkle of fear whenever you think about that project, that position that you're going for. Whatever the dream is that's in your heart that you are pursuing, whatever plans you have for this week, there always is going to be some level of fear. The key, however, when you think about still moving forward in the midst of the fear, is how you manage the fear. You're never going to be able to totally eliminate, totally destroy fear from your life and from your mind. But what you can do, what you do have the power to do, is manage it. Meaning, and this is at least how it makes sense to me, is you're able to turn the volume down on the fear. Those negative and fearful voices, when you want to go for the promotion, when you want to start the business, when you want to try a new offer, when you want to launch something, whatever it is, that voice in your mind that says, oh my God, what if this? Oh my gosh, are you sure about this? Right? It's just this fearful voice that each and every one of us has. Each and every one of us has the ability to manage the volume on that fear and simply turn it down. Because when you think about the actions necessary to achieve your goals and your dreams, it's a matter of you doing things despite the fear. You're never going to be able to do things with no fear. Because yes, you might be able to be described as fearless. Yes, you're going to be described as courageous. But let me tell you, the only way you're really able to be described as courageous is if you do things in spite of feeling the fear. So for me, I experienced this with symposium planning. I experience fear whenever I think about the venue, the speakers, and everything like that, the investments. There is a small level of fear that's there. But I make the decision to do things regardless of that fear that I feel, simply because I manage it so that way I turn the volume down. So I know what, quote unquote, those fear voices sound like, and I'm just intentional with managing the fear. Okay, I'm in charge of managing it. I'm never going to necessarily eliminate it, just because that really validates the confidence, that validates the courageousness that I have within me, simply because that fear exists. There's always two sides of the coin. You're never going to have all good. You're never going to have all bad. The key is, and that's why I just like the analogy of it, having a volume for the fear, having a volume for the negative thoughts and the negative voices in your head that is actually keeping you stuck. So again, I bring this fact up that fear is only managed and not eliminated simply so that way you understand that this is a management issue when it comes to your mindset. This has nothing to do with whatever the concern that's coming up in your mind. This is just simply how you're managing that thinking. Okay. So I'm just going to be sharing with you 3 things that really solidify, that really help explain why fear is a gift as a result of our basic understanding. Everything is under the premise of that we just need to manage our fear, not necessarily eliminate it, simply because it's impossible to eliminate fear, especially when you're reaching new levels and you're trying new things you never tried before. There's always going to be a level of fear. So the key is, how do I still take action despite the fear, despite the negative voices? How do I turn that volume down? All right. And it's from this lens that we're going to really be able to understand how fear is a gift and how fear can be a gift. Okay. So, number 1, the reason why fear is a gift is that fear indicates you're on the right path. Fear indicates that you're on the right path. Why? When you think about anything new that you've done, you think about any experience that you've never necessarily been in control of. You think about a meeting you've never led before, a business you've never started before, an offer you've never put together before or never launched out on, whatever it is. When you're doing new things and you're entering new spaces and meeting new people and just overall exposing yourself to uncertainties of the next level, it is a matter of you knowing, okay, and for me to achieve my biggest goals, in order for me to get there are going to be some new things, new experiences, new skills, and everything like that we talk about here that I'm going to need in order to get there. And because of that, if I'm afraid of something, that can kind of be my indicator to let me know, all right, I'm headed in the right direction with my growth and my development and with my progress. But if I allow myself, or if I should say, if I negatively or I ineffectively manage my fear, now fear goes from being an indicator to simply just being a wall. And that's why, again, that management of fear is so important, because if I manage my fear well and I turn that volume down on the negative thoughts and the negative voices, it allows me to view and leverage my fear as an indicator that I'm on the right path. So while in my heart, I know that I need to make those calls, but the fearful voices are speaking up about, well, what if this, what if that? Because I manage the fear well, I can basically consider those voices in my head simply as saying, you know what? Because I'm hearing this negative thought, because I'm hearing these fearful voices, that's my way of knowing, you know what? This is I'm on the right track. I'm on the right track because I'm hearing these negative voices. And it's just a matter of, again, management. Fear is a management thing. It has nothing to do with, whether you have it or don't. The most successful people in the world, I promise you, they have fear. They do it afraid. They just have managed it so well in a way that they know how to operate. They know how to take action despite feeling the fear. But you're going to feel the fear, right? So again, fear is a gift because it's an indicator that you're on the right path. And I want to really drive this point home, because I want you to understand that whatever it is that you're afraid of doing, if you know in your heart that it's something that you should be doing, I want you to turn the volume down on that fear. And I want you to just lean into the fact that that fear that you're experiencing is an indicator that you're on the right path to your ultimate destination, which is your goals and your dreams. So the first thing is that fear indicates that you are on the right path. You consider that when you experience those feelings and those emotions and those negative thoughts and voices of fear, that, you know what, that might actually be the very thing that's going to lead to my promotion. Okay, that's number 1. Fear indicates you're on the right path. The second reason why fear is a gift is that fear can bring the best out of you. Fear can bring the best out of you. When you think about the new experiences and the new levels and the new just things that you have to do in order to achieve your biggest goals, it is when you are afraid that you basically discover new capabilities, new capacities, new abilities within yourself that you might not have known if you didn't experience that fear. Because you were so afraid of how it was going to perform, you prepared way more. Because you were afraid, so to speak, of how it might have been perceived, you decided to put in extra work for the opportunity when it presented itself. And because fear is present, it basically brought out a better side of you. So for me, in my context, as I'm preparing for the symposium and I'm talking about more people, there's more money being spent, there's, a different venue and, the marketing of it and this and that, there's definitely a level of fear. But because I manage the fear well in terms of that volume gauge we talked about, when I feel those feelings of fear, when I feel it, I make sure that, you know what, I'm going to do whatever's necessary to make sure that that outcome that I'm afraid of happening doesn't happen. And as a byproduct of that, as a byproduct of the fear that I'm feeling, and I manage it well, I'm able to have that fear bring the best out of me simply because whatever that outcome that I'm afraid of, I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that never happens again. Whatever it is that you're afraid of has the potential to bring the best out of you. But it starts with you properly managing the fear, turning the volume down. Okay, so fear can bring the best out of you. And then the third and final point is that fear can bring influence. Fear can bring influence. Here's why. There are a lot of people who are mismanaging their fear, and it's causing them to look at their fear as a wall instead of an indicator that they're on the right path. So if you are the person that you learn and you master how to navigate and manage your fear, and you basically always view your fear as an indicator, so where you are still taking action despite how you feel, despite the negative voices, despite the fear that you're feeling, and you're taking action in areas that people wish, that will give you influence with other people. And that's why I always say, when it comes to just the idea of self-leadership, you need to be able to lead yourself well. And that's why I always say that before you can have influence with other people, you have to have influence over yourself. And a part of that influence over yourself is being able to manage fear, is being able to manage and say, you know what, let me turn the volume down on this fear and do it anyway. Let me do it scared. Let me do it afraid, because I know that whatever this thing is that I'm afraid of has the potential to get me to the next level. And so because of that, because you live your life in such a way that you're the one willing to quote unquote take the risks, you're the one that's willing to step out by faith, you're the one that's willing to do it alone and do it scared, that will bring you influence, because there are other people who aspire to figure out, how do I manage my fear to turn my fear from a wall that's stopping me and keeping me stuck and frustrated? How do I turn that into an indicator and a path to my goals and dreams, just like you did? And that's why, again, fear is a gift. It can be a gift, but only if you manage it properly. So with all these things in mind, let's just go through everything that we talked about in this conversation. We need to know that, number one, fear is only managed, never eliminated. All right, this is just a fact about fear that I want you to kind of shift your perspective when you think about the fear that you're experiencing. Fear is only managed, never eliminated, meaning that I manage turning the volume down on the voice of fear in my mind. Okay. And fear is a gift for three reasons. Number one, fear indicates that you're on the right path. This is assuming that you're managing it well. You're turning the volume down. It's an indicator that you are on the right path to your goals and to your dream. Number two, fear is a gift because fear can bring the best out of you. When you are afraid of a certain outcome or a specific outcome that may be horrible, the way in which you prepare is totally different. It's at a much higher level. It's at a much higher intensity, simply because of fear. So, number two, fear is a gift because it can bring the best out of you. And then number three, fear can bring influence. When you are the person that has learned how to navigate and turn the volume down and you manage your fear well, there are other people who would love to do the exact same thing. So if you are the person that learns how to consistently take action despite how you feel, you learn how to hit accomplishments that people wish they would, but fear right now to them is a wall instead of an indicator, you then have influence with them because you decided to have influence over yourself in terms of how you manage the fear. So fear is a gift, number three, because fear can bring influence. Now, I hope that this conversation was helpful to you. It was quick. I wanted to make sure I just got these out because, again, it's a very counterintuitive conversation. But this is something that I'm really passionate about simply because, again, nobody is quote unquote no one is actually fearless. People have simply mastered how to turn the volume down on fear. And guess what? The higher you go, the more money you make, the bigger the accomplishments that you're chasing after, the more you have to work, the more intentional you have to be about really learning how to manage the fear that you are feeling. And you have to make sure that you stay in a good place where you've mastered how to navigate and manage your fear. You stay in that place of mastering it, so that way fear can always be a gift to you, and it's not the thing that's actually keeping you stuck. All right. So, like I said, I hope this is helpful to you. So all I'm going to ask you to do is two things. Number one, I'm going to ask you to share this with someone. Share this with someone that you know right now is in a space where the fear that they're experiencing, the fear that they're feeling is a wall to them, and it's not an indicator. Okay, I'm encouraging you to do that. The second thing I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to download the free growth guide that is in the description. The link is below down there. That growth guide is basically going to be your jump start, so to speak, for your personal growth journey, so that way you can become the person to achieve that big goal or dream that's in your heart. All right, and it will help you basically discover and do that by looking at the 5 growth traps that can keep you away from your dream. So I'm going to encourage you to download that free resource. It's very, very helpful, and I know it's going to bless you. All right, so do those things. Be sure as you prepare for next week's conversation, go check out last week's, and I will see you. Always remember, your dream is possible when you lead yourself well.